Sure. My name is René Pluis. I work at Cisco. Okay. In the case of the Marathon Man Down or ALS project, I would like to know, out of curiosity, how many alarms do you get? And of those, how many false alarms are there? So how accurate is the system?
Yeah, the system is very accurate. And so, again, on location, it's within, I would say, 15 to 20 feet. So very accurate there. And the number of alarms we get, it's approximately 2 to 2.5 a week on H2S, and maybe a little bit less on LEL. So, and again, that might vary with turnaround, shutdown, major maintenance activities. So.
Hi, I'm Sid Snitkin from ARC. This is for John Sampson. John, is right? Did I say the correct name? I was fascinated with your talk, and this issue. When you talk about resiliency, I'm just wondering how, if that's in a sense kind of like business continuity planning. I know it's not exactly the same, or you may have different definitions for that, but well, anyhow, that's my question: is how the two would be compared?
Yeah, I think in some cases you can use those interchangeably. Business continuity, resiliency. It really is about, a couple of layers beyond the first event. If something else happens, then what? Just making sure you have a robust plan in place for whatever may happen. I mean, we have crackers, we have large equipment. What plans do you have in place if the unexpected happens? And are you looking out in front of that, looking at data, and proactively trying to use some of these statistical tools to help you understand the probability of something happening? And then what would you do? So it's similar. I think it's a pretty similar sort of approach. Thank you.
Could I ask a follow-up? Not a follow-up, but another one. I just have several questions. No, Patricia, if you want to comment, or somebody else, that's up to you. Well, because my second question was the idea, we talk a lot about, in this conference we've had 3 different sessions on risk management, right. And we also kind of see this idea of the role of all of these programs have to roll up in the end to an enterprise risk management program. And I'm just wondering, it's easy for me to say that. It's conceptually easy to say they should all roll up, but what does that actually mean? I mean, is there, when you get up to the corporate level, you talk about enterprise risk, is there somehow that some measures of what the risk, for example, of a plant having a disruption, someone's taking risk down at a facility, so that's going to affect your ability to deliver products and things like that? Yeah,
so we have triggers, right? So we measure a lot of things down and have data, and then we try to turn the data into information with some of these tools, and then we have triggers that would then elevate to our sustainability team, which is accountable to the board of directors. So if something hits a trigger, then it's mandatory that it's reviewed by the sustainability team. I sit on that team with the CIO, Dave Kepler, and Executive VP of Manufacturing, and our head legal counsel, and several other folks. So these are the folks that are really own the corporate risk. And so if it hits a trigger, it's mandatory that it's reviewed there. If it goes beyond that, or they're still uncomfortable, then it elevates to the board. And so there's a process for that, and triggers and data that we use to make that happen.
And triggers would be something like the likelihood of an event has risen to a higher level of likelihood, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. We use different measurement systems, absolutely.
And could I just one more? I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Well, you and I go outside.
We can always come back to you.
Oh, that's fine. If there's somebody.
Yeah. No, go ahead. We've got time.
No, I was just going to ask Patricia, from Exxon, because I know that's not your specific job like John's, but I'm sure you're aware of what you do. I'm just wondering how you do that kind of stuff at Exxon.
Well, I think similar to what was just said, that depending on the type of risk and the type of business, there is a hierarchical, if you will, structure in place. So if you're talking about safety risk or financial risk associated with a project, our project management system would require risk assessments following a certain procedure, and depending on the risk, it takes different levels of management sign-off, okay? Then when you start going more on the product side, okay, you get into product safety risk, you get into financial risk, and again, there would be a combination of business considerations, sheet considerations, supply chain considerations, and those would be considered individually and then in aggregate, and again, depending on the significance, would determine the level of review that would be required. You can imagine when you get on our upstream side, where we're exploring, we're producing, way down under, way down yonder, tremendous considerations. And so there you've got the safety, you've got the operational, you've got the financial, you've got the social, you've got the political, and Rex Tillerson's a busy man. So, you know, not to take it lightly, we try to empower as low as appropriate so that we don't have all the risk management decisions tied at an inappropriately high level, because then it becomes a bottleneck. But because the program and the review process is systematic, we think it's a fit for purpose. But you will find consistency across the countries, across the businesses, across the globe.
My question was for Don at Marathon. Putting that system in the way you did there, it makes me wonder that there might have been some privacy issues, some people that were against it. You know, they wanted not to tell you where they were going to be all day long. And I got to believe in some countries it's actually a major privacy issue against the.
Yeah, we did not experience that. Now there were some things that since it has the ability to track the worker, and we do keep that data, and we keep it for a very short period, a week. And the only reason we keep that data, if we did have an incident, we could go back, and when we do the investigation, we can understand what steps led up to that. But we had to make a promise to the workforce that we would never use that, and we never have. And I think it really comes down, we're a non-union facility in Robinson, Illinois, and some would argue, well, it's easy to go implement in a non-union. And to me, it's no different than union. I've worked in union plants, and I've worked in non-union facilities. And I would say it's really the trust that the workforce has with management and the type of culture you generate. So if you have a righteous culture and you don't use it against people, then it doesn't, to me, matter if it's a union plant or non-union. And we will not use it to track people's whereabouts. So, and I will tell you that really the acceptance has been very good because they understand that it's protecting them. And so that's been very positive. And in fact, it is on our business land. We have very strict policies of separating the control land and business land. This is on the business land. And what's interesting, it's gone down, and instantly, they're calling up and wanting to know how come we can't get this fixed and back online. So.
Question to John. With respect to, my name is Ibrahim Hamad from Dolphin Energy. With respect to the custody of the ERM or the business unit who's entrusted to follow the risk register and the definition of the risk tolerance, usually in chemical companies or oil and gas, the upper hand come to the health, safety, and environment. With regards to Dow, how do you manage the risk ERM? Is it under the HSC? Or under the business internal audit, or under the CEO office?
Yeah, we have several layers. Okay, so there's a business layer, and businesses can set their risk criteria. Obviously, there's some oversight at a corporate level to make sure that, and then there's another layer called corporate risk criteria, and so businesses can manage within a certain level. So if I'm in a chlorine business, I set my risk criteria based on what level of risk I'm willing to take around different things around GMIS or LOPA or some of these other tools that we use. But obviously that's set lower than the corporate risk. So an elevated business risk, then I put together a capital plan to go buy that down, so to speak. If I hit a corporate target, though, then it's out of my control. Then all of a sudden the folks at the sustainability team get involved, and then they kind of make decisions for you, and then you get things handed to you. You get decisions handed to you, not money, and then you have to then use the capital to go buy that risk down. So there's two different layers.
So the overall governance and control for the ERM is with health and safety or with the business?
Risk management is managed at both levels, but corporate level is really where the enterprise-wide enterprise risk is across everything. So we look across from R&D all the way through supply chain, through the businesses, through distribution and everything.
Another question for Don. Did you integrate the system with the safety system or the shutdown system in your solution?
the system is not integrated in any shutdown system. So it, again, it's on our business land, and it's not on the control land. And so it's obviously it's notification and response, but we don't tie it to any shutdown. The operators would have to elect, to follow our protocols if there was a release and shut down a process unit or take the appropriate action.
DCS or the safety system, just for the operator view?
Yeah, just for the console operator at the central control room receives all the gas alarms and motion and panic.
Is there a plan to integrate it further with the plant, or you just keep it as an island?
No, just keep it like that.
Okay. Other questions? Steve Banker, ARC.
Hi, this is for John Sampson again at Dow. What strikes me is I'm on the supply chain side. So, 5 years ago, maybe we talked about supply chain risk management. We didn't use that vocabulary. We didn't talk about resiliency. And there's certainly a whole lot more attention now than there used to be. And there's councils and I've got to say, I was very, very impressed with what you described. But are you sort of part of any other councils, and what are they? And who do you think are the best companies at risk management in the world based on participation in those kind of councils?
Yes. I'm sorry? Other than Dow, yeah. Well, in the name of true transparency, I've been in this job 70 days, so I know we're pretty good. But I can't honestly tell you. On the supply chain side, I know that when I got the job, they sent me a note and said, hey, we have a supply chain system that forewarns us of issues in certain areas. Now, our IT guys maybe can tell me who it is, but I know that 3 or 4 times a day I get a text message and an email saying that in Italy there's an issue in a ship channel, or there's a issue with the snow that just hit on the East Coast, and there's going to be a delay here. And so there's some sort of forewarning system out there that's gathering this information and feeding it into us, and we have a supply chain kind of radar system looking for hot spots against our distribution channels and nodes and systems, so we understand where there could be potential issues for supply chain. Now, to your other question around who's the best, I don't know. I think we're pretty good at it. We try to avoid, again, the headlines and staying out of trouble with regulators and keeping our customers happy. There are a lot of others that are doing similar things, all the big ones. I mean, Exxon, obviously, in the oil and gas space, is obviously considered top class. Hopefully you feel that way too. So it's too early for me to know who the best of the best is. I hope to learn that over the next year.
If I can jump in and, oh, sorry, Patty,
I was just going to say something that we've talked at a number of different sessions over the last 2 days about collaboration and partnering. And when you collaborate and partner, you often have more eggs in fewer baskets. And so from a supply chain standpoint, you might be getting your short-term, long-term price advantage, but when you do have disruption for whatever situation, actually the risk is higher. And we actually experienced a near miss with hurricanes in the Gulf a couple of years ago. And so I will tell you that our lubes business, I mean, we provide lubricants, we provide fuels, and those are the products that municipalities need to rebuild after a local situation, whether it's weather or something else. And so we have enhanced the risk management process associated with supply chain disruption to make sure we're taking the right balance of cost and OPEX versus disruption and your ability to recover after the fact. And I think a number of us, as we've shortened our list of suppliers and as we've increased our strategic partnering, those are good words, those are right words, but you got to balance short-term and long-term when you're putting those together.
The question I was thinking about, like, I know we're talking about operational risk management through multiple lenses, and I was especially intrigued, and I guess this is really a question for Bill and Chris, because you looked at operational risks from the design and build stage, and having a repeatable process was extremely important to your operation. But I saw something on your screen that looked a little bit like the digital plant, and from what I understand, the digital plant has always been a mecca. But you also desire to limit the amount of stick builds, so you're using module yards and various sources. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using technology to manage that handover and quality control to support your operation?
It's a matter of being able to have simultaneous engineering shops work with the same product in a coordinated manner. So we'll farm out very specific pieces that are meant for modularization. And those will be designed by that particular module shop, by that particular engineer. They'll do all of the drawings around that. They'll use the same system. And then we'll have an integration engineer that'll integrate all those pieces. So they'll take the product that's designed by the modular shop and make sure it fits into the larger scheme of things. So maybe it is a mecca, but I think that's the only tool that we can use to at least know where we're trying to get to and work through that.
So the question was about compliance versus risk management and how the interactions relate?
I guess I'll take that one to start, and then I'm sure others will have opinions to add to it. There's no question that at all times, under all circumstances, we always want to be compliant. And when I say I say we, our own employees, our own operators, as well as any contractors or suppliers that we deal with. And that's the beginning, okay? And so, yes, ExxonMobil, we have our systems to plan, assess, and ensure that we are compliant. Any contractors and suppliers that we deal with need to attest that they have processes and systems in place to demonstrate similarly. I will tell you that in the last couple of years, there have been situations where you went to a contractor who subbed, and it ended up that some of our supplier quality processes did not anticipate fourth generation subbing, and we found ourselves in some supplier situations where the quality was not what was expected, and so we've enhanced the systems because of that. But I would tell you that there's some times where, yes, being compliant is appropriate. There's other times where you want to go more than that for various reasons, and our systems will be set at that higher threshold.
Anybody else from the panel?
So yeah, I think similarly here at Dow, we set our own standards in many cases, and a lot of times they're above and beyond what truly compliance would require. In our sustainability team, again at the top executive level, first agenda item, compliance issues that we've had around the world. So that's the first place we start at the executive level. They're looking at the details and asking the questions to make sure that that we understand where we are, because that's foundational. That's blocking and tackling. You have to have that every day. You got to keep people safe. You got to be compliant. If you're not doing that, then the rest of it really isn't going to matter. The house of cards are going to fall. So, and again, we have a supplier assessment program. We make sure our suppliers are, kind of partnered with us. Half of our work hours are by contractors. We only do half the work out there at Dow Chemical. 50,000 Dow, 50,000 contractors, 200 million hours of work getting done every year. We've got to have a robust front engine on this thing to make sure that our suppliers are at least as good as we are, or we're not going to be successful.
So I think we've got time for one last question.
One last question. Question for Don. You may not be willing to answer this. But what was the cost to deploy a system like that? Are we talking $1 million? Are we talking more? Or
yeah, maybe we probably don't want to share that, but I will tell you that it was. I can tell you on the installation. I can give you a little bit of insight there. Is we optimized the cost of installation. And how we did that is, as we designed the location of the APs, we worked with our embedded electrical contractor. So instead of going through a process that we normally would go through, is to have engineering develop a construction package, and then from that construction package we issue it out in the field and we go build. But what we did is we had Accenture work with our embedded electrical contractor in the placement of the APs, and they really field ran it because the electrical contractor knew where the power was, they knew where the fiber was, and so they basically ran it, and then we did as-built drawings afterwards. So I think one of the things that was really nice about that is we implemented it on a fairly quick basis. You know, you can go into a process unit and get it done in a few weeks, and then also we minimized the cost there. And then one of the things we did go back and look at, maybe a different way of looking at it, is when you look at the cost of the hardware in the field, the back-end systems, and the monitors themselves, is we sort of tried to break it down into a cost, you know, how much does it cost per worker, per hour, that type of thing, and I think came back with a fairly low cost there of, you know, sort of like $1 an hour type thing to, you know, to cover each worker. So
$1 per hour per worker?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That kind of gives me an idea. What are your plans for your other facilities? You know, this is obviously a pilot facility, and you know, at some point you would want to extend it. You know, if you felt the value proposition was there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the right now is we got it fully implemented, fully functional at the Robinson refinery, and what we wanted to do is just make sure that, you know, the system performed, was stable, and it has been, so we haven't had any problems there. And so our plans is to roll it out to our other large refineries. Not only first we're looking at our Garyville facility, Garyville, Louisiana, and Catlettsburg, Kentucky. But then I think in the mix of all this, as we got thrown in, we had a large acquisition with our new Galveston Bay refinery. So I think that's sort of put things a little bit on hold. So.